So I just watched one of Ubisoft's recently adapted video games into Netflix. So they made like an animation of this show called Splinter Cell. If you don't know, I'm a big fan of Splinter Cell. I've been playing that since I was pretty young, like in the PS2, PS3 era. But I would play Pandora tomorrow, like there was no tomorrow. This was when I can probably afford maybe like 1 or 2 games per birthday. So like that's not a lot of games to work with. And one of those games that I just happened to come across was Splinter Cell because of how cool the cover looks. And years later, I got pretty addicted, and all of a sudden they just stopped making games. Whatever reason, Ubisoft just doesn't want to print money, I guess. But now, they took that property and made it into a Netflix animated TV show, and I watched it the other day, and it's safe to say it was pretty good. There's going to be some things that I like and don't like, but the main thing that I really wanted to address was the voice of Sam Fisher. As you know, Michael Ironside voices the legendary Sam Fisher, to the point where I can't see anyone else voicing him. Like, this is how purist I am of, like, the Sam Fisher voice. Because it has, like, that low, bassy voice, but also has, like, a warming, comedic tone about it. It's really hard to replace Michael Ironside. So that was the first thing I was worried about when they would make a live-action adaptation. Because they didn't cast Michael Ironside. I know he's up there in age. But I think the actor that they replaced with was a pretty okay replacement. Not the best, but it's okay. So the guy that replaced him is... I don't want to butcher this. I'm going to look this up real quick. So the guy who replaced him is Liev Schreiber. I think I pronounced that incorrectly, but it is what it is. But you might know him as Sabretooth from X-Men. Like, that's the only thing I've known him for. And then Salt, he was in that movie with... Yeah, it's kind of weird. But mostly I know him as Sabretooth in X-Men. That's how I know him. And they chose him to replace the voice of Sam. I think he did a pretty good job. Like, it made me reconsider, like, maybe he could replace Michael Ironside if we had to. But it looks like we might have to because he's kind of getting up there in age. But he did a pretty good job. He pretty much copied some of the Sam Fisher mannerisms that I'm used to in the games, so I was pretty happy with his performance. He adds this kind of like wisdom kind of vibe because in this show, like Sam Fisher is a little bit older, which kind of adds to like more of like the stakes because when he gets into like some fights, and the fights are amazing, by the way, we'll get to that later. The fights in this series gets more intense because he's not the Sam Fisher we used to know. Like when he was out there like doing these like Spec Ops mission behind enemy lines. Like, this is Sam Fisher that's a little older, and he's feeling it. He's feeling a lot more than he probably would in his prime. But overall, I think the Sam Fisher voice, he pretty much nailed it. I wouldn't mind seeing him in, like, other adaptations of Splinter Cell. Maybe that's what they did this for. It was just, like, to test the waters to see if he could probably replace the shoes of Michael Ironside. And I think he can do it. It's my seal of approval, but who knows? And one thing you should know is that you don't need to play the other games to watch this movie. I mean, it would help. Sure, definitely, like to get familiar with the characters and how they're supposed to act, but if you came in here not knowing any video games and just watched the Splinter Cell movies, cold turkey, I think you should be okay. The story is kind of like a lot of Jason Bourne type of stuff, mixed with some John Wick elements, and also like some espionage shit, with some conspiracy type movies, like all that amalgamation mixed into one. So if you like this might be your cup of tea, which I found very entertaining. It definitely spoke to me. But one thing I say I didn't like was just the animation style. It's just not my cup of tea. But I'm glad they did an animation rather than a live action, because there's the scenes that they do with like the fight scenes, they're pretty well done. Like they paint Sam Fisher as like someone who's like efficient with like the takedowns and the close quarters combat. Like he's not doing no fancy flips or nothing, but it's just very efficient close quarters combat to take the enemy down as efficiently as possible. And they did a pretty good job of that, and with how gruesome the deaths are, animation was like the perfect style to go with, because you can kind of play with a little bit more of the gore, and it gets pretty gruesome. Like there was some point where some guy just got like incinerated, and you get to see this in all its glory, and like all the muscle fibers getting basically shredded. Like it was pretty gruesome. And then like what's cool is also Sam Fisher was like oral farming like a good amount of time. Like some people might find that cheesy. I don't mind it because I grew up with Sam Fisher, and he would do a lot of this shit sometimes. Like you ever played Splinter Cell Convictions? He just walked up in an office and basically just says, I have an appointment, and then he becomes to just shut the whole facility down with like a button press to destroy the generator. Like it kind of reminded me of like that instant nostalgia. I also like that they fleshed out a little bit of Sam's story's like backstory. They kind of did it just tidbits here and there, not to where it's just like filler episodes. But I feel like they should have gone more in depth with it because, I don't know, I kind of like a Sam lore. Like if they focus season 2 on just having Sam Fisher like flesh out his character and how they became the legendary Splinter Cell that we know, I wouldn't mind that. But I will say like the ending is kind of weird. So I'm going to go into spoiler territory. Here's your last warning. But like they built up this villain that was attached to like Douglas's daughter, we all know Douglas was gonna be the villain no matter what. But this, her brother, like her half brother, was set up to be like this very cunning, brilliant mastermind that was able to basically deduce that this person was a spy in like their own event, and even like sometimes beat these elite hackers and soldiers to the punch of like their operation and ruin it. And then they just killed him towards the very end. Like, it was just weird. Like, I thought they were gonna set him up as the bad guy of the second season, but they kind of shot him, but it was ambiguous because you don't see the body, so there's probably a chance that he didn't die, but I heard a thud, I heard a shot, so maybe? Like, I think they shouldn't have done that. I think like, it was kind of good where they left it off, but they just had to cut that just one segment to like make it at least more conclusive that this guy's gonna be the villain for the next season. There was even some Easter eggs I noticed because of how often I played the games. I noticed that they reused some of the sound assets from the game, like when they turn on the night vision, or when they use like some of the sticky cams, or when they use the walkie-talkies. All of those gave me like a nostalgia hit as soon as I heard them on screen. It was kind of nice. And every time you see a QR code, right? If you see a QR code on the screen, 9 times out of 10, it's probably leading to something cool, like a little Easter egg or something. And for this case, there was a QR code that you can scan, and it leads you to the Legacy Collection of Splinter Cell on Steam. Of course, I already have the collection, so they didn't really make a sale off me. But I thought it was kind of cool, and if you wanted to explore the series more in depth, there's your chance to do so. So if I may had to make a wish list of what I want to see on the next season, one thing I would definitely want to see is more Sam Fisher origins. Like, I want to see how he got to basic boot camp, how his first training went, like all the mistakes he's made, and like, I just want to see more Sam Fisher. Not too much to ask. If this is the only way I'm going to get more Sam Fisher stories, I'm down. Like, whatever. And also, I would like more missions to take place behind, like, enemy lines. Like, deep in places that we shouldn't be. Like, who knows? It could be, like, some forbidden place in China or in Korea. Or maybe somewhere in the Middle East. Like, I just want to see them interact behind enemy lines where they're just surrounded. And there's, like, probably no way that they're going to get any backup or exfil. And so they have to rely on their skills and their wit to basically outmaneuver an entire country that's pretty much out to get them. Like, those are the two major things that I would want. If you guys are familiar with the series of Splinter Cell, you should definitely check it out. Like, you may or may not like it. I think there's a 70% chance that if you're a Splinter Cell fan, or at least if you have some urge to have more Splinter Cell content, this is going to serve that itch for you by some little margin. And plus, if it does well, maybe they'll release a Splinter Cell game. Because the last game we got was, what, Splinter Cell Blacklist? And when was this released? This was released in 2013. That was 12 years ago. Yeah, just watch it, dude. Who knows? Maybe they'll consider making another Splinter Cell game. Like, I feel like the reason why they made this is to probably capitalize on the arcane success of, like, adapting video games to the big screen. But also maybe they're testing the waters to see if the voice actor that they picked out would make a good candidate for the replacement of Sam Fisher one day. Like, that's just my conspiracy hat of why they made the series, but it's fine. Go watch it if you have some time. And that's all I got for you guys today. I'll see you guys on the next one.